All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Vaughn Dalzell, the great Drew Dinsick, still conquering the slopes of Colorado. He will be back shortly. Vaughn and I, given that it is AMA Day, we're going to tackle a couple of questions, also hit a few random markets, including the National League MVP market, which I think is pretty fascinating. And then we'll talk some college basketball as well. But let's start off on with first question from Andy Vate at Pundy Vate on Twitter. Any tips for the Oscars this weekend? Chances that Oppenheimer minus 8,000 on Bovada doesn't take home Best Picture. Barbie is 50 to 1. Also, should we get Froton's prop take on whether Simu Liu and Ryan Gosling will dance or fight on stage during the performance of I'm Just Ken, minus 115? Your thoughts, Vaughn?
Is there a both prop market for them to fight and dance? Because that happened a lot in Barbie. And I'll say this, Jay. I didn't. Did you see Oppenheimer?
I did. Yes. Yep. Did
I
you?
I watched Barbie, but Oppenheimer was playing at the same time. So I heard the boom and the big
Oh,
crash everyone talked about. So I feel like I saw Oppenheimer, right?
yeah.
Is that like that was the gist of the movie? Am I correct?
There's a lot going on. It's a very long film. Cillian Murphy gets really dark into the weeds. But what did you think of Barbie?
Barbie, it wasn't my type of movie for sure. But
Okay.
when on a date, you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. But I look at this, I wouldn't play Barbie at 50 to 1. Probably more best costume design or best production design. I was looking at those ones, and that's against Poor Things, which I actually have on my watch list. And my girl and I didn't watch that this weekend, so I'll have to watch that before I place a bet on this one. But I feel like Barbie isn't a movie that everybody is going to go out and love. Oppenheimer probably catches more people by surprise. So I don't know. What do you have? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think Barbie was kind of my film. I recommend it for anyone who has daughters, or really anyone
Oh
on the
well,
planet.
yeah,
You don't have to have daughters, but as someone
family.
with three daughters myself, it was, I thought it was just really well done. And I mean, Oppenheimer is very much the type of film that does, sweep Oscars. It's a very Oscar-y film, and it looks like
Yeah,
just based on the prices of Best Picture, Christopher Nolan for Best Director, and Cillian Murphy for Best Actor. I mean, those three in particular, they all seem done. I will say with these markets, generally you don't see like minus 8,000 favorites go down. This is the type of thing where I think things do leak, and that, these prices offshore primarily just get beaten into oblivion, and they generally are. When you get into minus 8,000, you're pretty representative of the truth. Now, when it gets really interesting is like a couple of years ago when I think Parasite was like plus 200 to win Best Picture, and then got up as a dog. And we're going to go through a couple other of those. I will make one observation about Oppenheimer. Emily Blunt is the third favorite to win Best Supporting Actress at 10 to 1. And I briefly mentioned
Mm.
this on the show previously, but she has like one good scene in Oppenheimer where she's like going back and forth with the Australian bloke, actually. And outside of that, she does absolutely nothing for the whole film. If she wins Best Supporting Actress, that will be a travesty. And I love Emily Blunt. I'm all in Emily Blunt. This is not the film for her. Is there anything on the Oscars menu that appeals to you, Vaughn?
Yeah, let me ask you this because I was definitely a fan of the Killers of the Flower Moon movie. Leonardo
Sure.
DiCaprio, he's my favorite actor, so pretty much everything he's in, I'm watching. He's not up for any awards here for the best main actor, but for supporting actor, Robert De Niro's at 20 to 1. Robert Downey is minus 5,000. Did you think Robert Downey was clearly like that great in Oppenheimer?
No, I didn't. I don't understand. I guess he's just going to win because he's minus 5,000. So the word must be out. But I'd be perfectly fine with De Niro getting it over him. Thought Ryan Gosling and Barbie was better than Robert Downey.
Yeah,
I
he
think
was
it was
good.
a solid performance from Robert Downey Jr. But no, nothing super special.
It,
Look, the Oscars is not really the place you go for merit, Vaughn. I'm going to go through a few of my favorite snubs. I made a little bit of a list.
let's hear
Art
it.
Carney winning Best Actor for Harry and Tonto over Al Pacino in The Godfather Part 2. That is an absolute travesty. And also, neither of those two guys should even have won it because Jack Nicholson was there for Chinatown as well, which is one of the great performances of all time. That's a disgrace.
Oh.
Crash, the movie Crash winning over Brokeback Mountain. Brokeback Mountain closes a -400 favorite. Crash is not a good film. Brokeback Mountain is a fantastic film. And the favorite going down there, that's shades of Damar Hamlin getting done by Joe Flacco. That's an absolute mess.
I knew it was coming. I
Yeah,
knew it was coming.
that's shameful. Shakespeare in Love over Saving Private Ryan. That's kind of the famous one that never should have happened. Saving Private Ryan is a much better film. And then I had to go deep in my bag for this one, but How Green Was My Valley winning over Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane, which is now regarded as like the greatest film of all time, and went down to How Green Was My Valley. That's nuts. And then Robert Donut winning for Goodbye Mr. Chips over Jimmy Stewart in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, going back to 1939 for that one, Vaughn, but that's also a complete mess. So doesn't usually go right, but the last time we had a big upset was Parasite winning over 1917. And personally, I'm fully on board with that. Did you see Parasite?
Yeah, I thought Parasite was a phenomenal movie. I'm still upset about Leonardo DiCaprio getting snubbed multiple times. I mean, The Departed, Django Unchained, Jay, two of my favorite movies of all time. When I watched The Departed in high school, my mind was absolutely blown. So yeah, I could get down with some of your snubs as well. I don't know if I'm going to be placing any. And I'll say this because the reason why I'm not saying I didn't like Barbie by any means, but there's too many horse jokes. Like I feel like men don't like horses that much, Jay. I mean, I don't know if you're a horse guy or not, but
Not really.
just
No, I
yeah.
wouldn't consider myself a horseman. No, so, yeah. No, not at all.
Yeah, so that was my only beef with it. But I think costume design and all that production design, I thought Barbie was phenomenal. Like the colors and the acting, everything. I thought it was awesome. So maybe Ryan Gosling, there's some to his best supporting actor rather than Barbie beating Oppenheimer.
Maybe you can get it done. Where did DiCaprio even not get nominated for The Departed? That's not
No,
right. He should have been nominated for that. I thought, yeah,
that's what I'm
I'm with you. The
saying,
Departed is
man.
an excellent film. The Departed also, one, extremely rewatchable, something that you can watch 10 times,
Hmm.
never really gets old. Two, also like Oscar-ish type of film, despite being a kind of extremely rewatchable, not action movie, but thriller type of film. Yeah, just ticks a lot of boxes. The Departed. He got nominated for Blood Diamond. I think that might have been the same year. So maybe they just gave him one, and then he lost to Forrest Whitaker for Last King of Scotland, which I'm not sure how that holds up.
I'm not with that.
Anyway, from Leonardo DiCaprio, we move to Ronald Acuna Jr., the National League MVP
Nice.
market. Vaughn, which has brought me great joy in the past with Bryce Harper, tortured me in 2022 with Paul Goldschmidt beating every other person in the field who I bet, which was many. That's one of my biggest ever losses. That actually makes Damar Hamlin look like a drop in the ocean. Paul Goldschmidt, I still don't know how he pulled that out. And then last year, Acuna over bets was a bit disappointing, but had a bit of Acuna. Anyway, this year, Acuna is the favorite at plus 525. Mookie Betts is second at plus 650. Shohei Ohtani 9-1, now plays in the National League. Fernando Tatis Jr., who is an outfielder now, for anyone who wasn't paying attention to Padres baseball last year, he's 10-1. And then you have Freeman, Harper, Olsen, Carroll, Trey Turner. I'd say that's probably a cutoff point. Now, guys can come from the clouds to win this award. And it has been, done before. Paul Goldschmidt was 70-1, much to my chagrin, the year that he won. Harper got out to 120-1 the year he won too. But what do you make of this market right now with the news that Ronald Acuna has a little irritation in his knee and is seeing a specialist?
That's interesting news. I don't want to take Acuna really to go back to back. Last year I was on him, and you almost convinced me, Jay, because Mookie Betts started coming on strong at the
Yeah.
year, so I almost hedged out on my Acuna bet. But I caught him at like a 3-1 price last season, which I felt was very appropriate at that time. Being right now, I feel like the most appropriate bet at the price would either be Shohei Ohtani at 9-1 or maybe a Corbin Carroll at 20-1. Corbin Carroll is certainly an interesting guy that's going to get better and better each season, and obviously the Diamondbacks are going to be a team now that I think is going to probably contend every single year. Being in the Dodgers division is obviously going to put the spotlight on him most weeks. So I feel like those two are the best bets. But how could you not want to take Ohtani at 9-1, Jay? I mean, I feel like that might be stealing at this price now. He's on the Dodgers.
Well, I think the problem is that I mean he's not going to pitch this year. It seems like so he's going to be
He's
exclusively a hitter
home run
DA.
leader.
Yeah, well, I mean the thing is that he would have won AL MVP last year even if you just take the pitching out entirely because he was so dominant as a hitter. Now,
Yeah.
if this knee is a thing, then I think Otani becomes a lot more live. I like the thought on Corbin Carroll as well, just because it's his second year in the league. And he's just got a ton of upside, and that's what you want when you're backing someone at 20-1. But I think, and you're going to talk about this market in two ways, but the first way is if Acuna is healthy, I think that he should actually be shorter for this because here's the thing is that Mookie Betts had a completely insane season last year, and Acuna still won MVP, I believe, unanimously. And he did that despite the fact that by the underlying numbers, Ronald Acuna last year was the third unluckiest hitter in all of baseball. He made the most barrel ball outs in the history of the sport since that's been tracked. So he got extremely unlucky, had to deal with this freak season from Mookie Betts, and still won unanimously. He is by pedigree, he came in as the next great thing. He's delivered MVP caliber seasons in the past. I believe he's 26 years old. Like, there's no reason that he should get worse. He is all the projection systems have him like 2 WAR above everyone else. And he's a player as well who I think is viewed by voters even more highly relative to what he does by WAR because, stolen bases, I think, add more value in the public perception than they do by WAR. He's not a great defensive player. People never value defense as much as they should. So I think you add all that up. And if he's healthy, if you told me that Ronald Acuna is going to play 154 games or if he's going to play 145 games, I think that he should be much closer to the plus 200 range. The issue is he's got this knee thing, and we should find out in the next 24 hours. But if the kind of prescription there is just rest, then he's going to be fine. And Alex Anthopoulos, they said that they fully expect him back for opening day. If he is fine, then I think he is a bet. But I would certainly wait to see how that plays out a little bit. I don't think this price is going to move a ton. But what do you think? Have I talked you into Acuna?
No, I mean, I like it's hard not to be on Acuna, man. He's that special, and I agree with the base stealing. Like it was phenomenal last season to see him break the record, but now that they made the rule changes, it certainly benefits a player like him compared to most other guys. I would ask you this though, because even making a case for maybe Mookie Betts now, because you just look at Otani's hitting numbers, like you assume he's going to have more RBIs. You assume he's going to get walked more often, and with the Dodgers, but a guy like Mookie Betts, you'd assume that his numbers also will go up. He'll score more runs with Ohtani hitting 3 or 4, probably 4, and Mookie Betts being the one. So do you think Mookie Betts is also an attractive bet? Would you be willing to put money on him running it back if Acuna isn't 100% to start the season?
Yeah, with Betts, I mean, with all of these guys, really, I would be waiting to see what Acuna's status is. I would worry with Betts that he, in a way, kind of maxed out what he can do as a player last year. I mean, that was his best season
Right.
since his MVP year in
Yeah.
2018. Now, can he run that back? Like, last year was only his age 30 season. Feels like Mookie Betts is older because he's been around for so long, but, he's coming into his age 31 season. He's coming off a career high in home runs. He's playing second base, which is still completely ridiculous. He's just gone from just randomly playing right field to second base and being really good at it. But I just worry that he doesn't quite have the power ceiling of Acuna, and he's not going to add as much on the bases, which voters really value. His batting average isn't going to be the same. The way that I would look at this market is that right now, like you can bet over under on all the star players, their home run totals and stolen base totals for the speed guys. Like Ronald Acuna in the market is set at like 38.5 homers and 58.5 steals, and he's the favorite to win the batting title. Like it's completely ridiculous. Like if he just goes over on his projection, like one over on each, then he's probably just going to win MVP, I think. Because the other thing too is that the Braves have the highest floor, I think, of any team in baseball. Now, you can say the Dodgers have a higher ceiling, but the Dodgers also have like a ton of questions in the rotation. The Braves are just going to
Mhm.
roll out of bed and, win 98 games, maybe more. And so the team success element shouldn't be a problem. It's just the health. And with the team success, like it's not the biggest deal for MVP. Mike Trout has obviously won 3 MVPs. He's made the playoffs once in his career. Ohtani's been winning MVPs on 73 win teams. But I do think that for someone like Tatis, he's probably going to have a little bit of a higher bar to clear because the Padres are probably not going to be amazing. Also, he has the steroid thing, which I think is going to put some voters off too. So, yeah, I think this is a bit of a wait and see. And then I think it's a dive in if we get word that Acuna is actually going to be fine. And if he's not fine, then it's a chaos market and we need to reassess. And then guys like Carroll and Trey Turner, who was amazing the last 2 months of the season, those guys I think become a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and I think the one thing too to note about that list of the MVP market is we noticed that every single player listed outside of Corbin Carroll comes from 3 teams: Braves, Dodgers, Padres. Kind of speaks to the offenses we have had hand here. So yeah, I definitely like the looks that we've been talking about and think that those are going to be the 2 most exciting teams in baseball this season.
Yep, indeed. All right, spring training is here. So for those looking to get ahead on the upcoming MLB season, grab your Roto-World Baseball Draft Guide. It's loaded with comprehensive positional rankings, projections, and player profiles to ensure your draft is a success. Visit NBCSports.com/draft guide and use code BASEBALL24 to get 10% off at checkout. All right, question from Thomas Felton at the NFLton. Very clever. What is the biggest stat factor, Vaughn, that would make you drop a team from your list of March Madness winners, and which favorites in the 20-1 or less range does that eliminate for you?
It's a great question. I would say 3 big reasons, with the biggest reason being last. The team has to be able to force turnovers. You cannot force turnovers, you're done. Defensive turnover percentage is a huge key. If you can't shoot free throws, obviously that's going to be a very key factor. But the biggest one is if you can't rebound both ways. And it seems to be the most important lately with the history of the winners, Jay, because you look at last year with UConn, they were second in offensive rebounding percentage, top 100 both ways. Kansas also top 100 both ways, 40th in offensive rebounding percentage. The 2022 winner, go back to Baylor in 21 and UVA in 19. Both those teams were top 100 both ways, with Baylor being the 5th in offensive rebounding percentage. Now, Baylor and Kansas weren't great free throw shooting teams, but they got by with their rebounding and their offensive turnover percentages. And you look at those 4 teams I mentioned that won: UConn, Kansas, Baylor, and UVA. Only Baylor ranked top 140 in defensive turnover percentage. So why Drew and I do talk about that in the show a lot, forcing turnovers. It may be more important to be scoring off the turnovers you do create rather than forcing them, because that hasn't been a key stat category the past few years. But if we're talking about teams that don't fit those molds I just spoke on in the 20-1 range, Marquette, Creighton, Alabama, and Kentucky. I'm out, Jay. Those 4 teams. And they each have a thing that goes wrong with them, like Creighton ranking bottom 5 in defensive turnover percentage and offensive rebounding. Alabama, Kentucky do not force turnovers, and they're terrible rebounding teams. Kentucky, 192nd or worse both ways. So Marquette's another team, can't shoot free throws, can't rebound, but they do force turnovers. So I don't like those 4. Do you have any opinions? And when you look at stats and projections at all, is there anything that you look for in particular this time of year?
Well, I'm out on Alabama as well after their disgraceful melt home to Tennessee, which
how do you get up by 5 or 6 and lose, man? Come on.
They're up 58-51 with like 9 minutes left or something, and then just completely melted. They had no answer for Connect, and it just didn't say, like, outside of Sears on offense, it just they don't seem to have a reliable source to go to. So I'm with you with being lukewarm on Alabama. Now, I think from a statistical perspective, like, all of the projection models all season have been extremely high on Houston, who are plus 750 to go all the way. They're the number 1 team by Ken Pom rankings. They have, this incredible defense and my man Jamal Shed down the end of games. Do you think there is a reason to fade the projection systems on Houston? Do you think there's something intangible that the numbers don't pick up about them?
No, I think Houston is arguably the most complete team. Like, I think them and UConn. The one thing Houston doesn't have that, a UConn or Purdue is, they don't have as much height as those teams have, but they are way, way more physical. And you even saw in Houston's last game, I know you said you were sweating against Oklahoma. I was on Oklahoma's first half team total. It was set at 28.5, Jay, and they had 45 at halftime. I think you don't see this type of thing, but even when a team can run out the gym on Houston, they can also do the same thing. So Houston's losses, I mean, Iowa State and TCU, those were 4-point and 1-point losses where they grinded out, and those teams didn't have much success on offense. Kansas is the only team that beat them by margin. It was a 7-point road loss there. And we know how hard it has been to win at Kansas historically. So I don't see any reason to hop off of Houston. When I look at their numbers in particular, the one area that they are really bad in is free throw shooting. 69% on the season, 294th. But when they've been in Big 12 play, that number's jumped up to 72%, which, isn't great, but it's certainly more appealing than what it is on the season. But I also will say they play physical games, so no wonder why their free throws don't go down nearly as often. So I'm with you. I mean, Houston's the one team I did place a bet on to win the national title. I placed them at plus 750 as well. I know a lot of talk is the Tennessee Vols now are the hottest team to be betting. But I still do not believe in Rick Barnes as a coach and think that team will fall somewhere in the Elite Eight, Final Four, Jay.
Yep. No, I'm with you there. With Houston, I think from memory, the Iowa State game, they just couldn't make a three and they lost by 4 on the road, which is fine. The Baylor game they won a week or so ago took years off my life as someone who very much needed Houston in that game. Just the roller coaster of emotions where Baylor missed the free throw with like 5 seconds left, and then I think Shed hits the insane buzzer-beating 3.
And it doesn't count.
And it doesn't count, but then they get the job done in overtime. But they seem to have the best defense and enough on offense to warrant being, regarded as potentially the best team in the country. All right. It's a marquee matchup, Vaughn, to end the Big Ten regular season. Catch conference frontrunner Purdue take on Illinois as the Fighting Illini battle for seeding before the Big Ten tournament. Tip-off is set for 6:30 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Peacock. All right. Going to talk about a couple of 20 champion pricing, a couple of markets. The American East, Vaughn, where Vermont is minus 280, UMass Lowell plus 390, Bryant 11-1, New Hampshire 4 plus 4100. And you like the favorite here?
Yeah, sorry that this is minus 280 now, because when we spoke about this on Sunday with our producers, Vermont was minus 135 to win the American East. And I had to stop everything I was doing because I said this should be at least minus 250. I mean, anyone that's watched this show the last couple of seasons knows that I do love the Vermont Catamounts. They've won 8 straight regular season titles in the American East, 4 of the last 5 American East tournaments, and they're going to try to go 3 times back to back to back now. But when you look at the past few seasons, 14-1, 14-2, 17-1 in conference play, they are surely dominating their conference. They're similar to how Gonzaga was the past few seasons up until this year in the WCCC. And if you look at the winning streak that they're on right now, they've been ranked the 75th best team in the country on their current 6-game winning streak with the 22nd best record. So I don't see a team, Jay, that will beat them. Now, laying the 2 minus 280 price, the one thing that I think that we all do a good job of on this show is telling people how to bet them game by game and break down. But that's the better price to get. I think you'll get Vermont laying double digits in their first game for sure, but they've won 6 straight conference games by 13 or more points and 5 of those by 20 plus. So honestly, at this point in time, Jay, whoever Vermont plays each game, each round, you take Vermont, because the best part about the American East Conference tournament is what? They're in Vermont, the number 1 seed hosts. So Vermont has home crowd advantage as well. They're going to blow everybody out, Jay.
Okay, Vermont it is. Let's go to the AAC conference that has caused me significant grief this season. I was on FAU to win the regular season conference. Then I had some SMU for a boatload, actually, and that went down. Had some Charlotte at a time, and they're all going to go down because of South Florida. And what I hate most about this is this conference made me watch the end of a South Florida UTSA Roadrunners game where,
oh my God, what a great
game. Roadrunners were up like 6 or something with 4 minutes left. I'm not kidding you. I don't think they hit the rim in the final 4 minutes. I'm not sure they got a shot up that hit the rim in the final 4 minutes until they hit a garbage layup late. So, battle scarred by this conference, but you have a bet for who's going to win the AAC.
Yeah, and you're probably going to hate it then, because I like the Bulls because they have the best defense in the conference.
Win,
yeah, I mean, they, I hate to say the team that's 15-1 is the best team in the conference because they won the regular season title, but They're third here on this sports book that we're showing on the screen, but most other places have them as fourth at like 5-1 range, so a little bit better pricing than plus 480. Although we're picking pennies here, but South Florida has been phenomenal. I mean, since February 1st, they're the 33rd ranked team in the country according to Bartorvik, with the 14th ranked defense and 14th ranked 3-point defense. The next closest team is FAU at 74. Then you got Memphis, North Texas, SMU all jumbled in around 78 to 94. So they've been underrated all season long. Every time I've watched them, I've been so impressed with this defensive team. I feel like they get up to play the FAUs, the Memphises, the SMUs. All those teams has great defense or great offenses, but they can't match what South Florida's done defensively. So, this might be a sucker bet, Jay, because they're not the favorite, although they won the regular season title. But I do think that they are bound to. And one fun fact about South Florida, and all the conferences they've been in across their whole college basketball organization, they have never won a conference championship. What better year to do it than 2024 with FAU thinking they were undoubtedly going to be in the tournament?
Yeah, well, I've been waiting for this team to melt for 2 months now, and they
They just
never
don't got
do.
it.
And it's not just that they went 15-1, but like the one loss didn't even come to FAU or SA. It came to UAB. Like they beat everyone, literally
Yeah.
everyone in front of them who had a pulse really in the conference. They took down. So the team makes me sick. But if you can't beat them, why not join them? So
Join them.
yeah, I would love to win some money on South Florida after what they've cost me this season. So yeah, all in Bulls plus 480. To your point, Vaughn, some 5-1, 6-1 still about as well. All right, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Vaughn Dalzell, we'll see you soon.